Hello, my friends, and welcome back.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be taking a look at a clip of a fat activist saying fat people are hotter than thin people. We're also going to be taking a look at a few bonus clips, including one where somebody's talking about the obesity pay gap, and another one where somebody is saying we have to buy clothes made with slave labor. We have limited clothing options, so be sure to stick around until the end. I know that's not funny, but the ridiculousness of it is kind of funny. Please be sure to check out a video I released over the weekend about Jaden Smith's cringy new interview where he talks about building beds for his friends and all sorts of other off-the-wall crap. Here's a link. Before we proceed, please click the like button so that I may apply comb to mustache. The caption reads, "They say that fat people are just as hot, if not hotter, than thin folks." Who is they?
That's what they saying.
Who? Who said that?
Who said that?
Thank you.
I am.
Okay. At least we're being honest. Okay, so some random person said fat people are hotter than thin people. That's all the proof that I need. That is clearly true. That takes care of that. Next, she's going to be responding to this comment that reads, "As someone who was a solid 18 through 22, 2X for many years and now sits at a 14/16, while I had compassion for the struggle, I also see so much flawed victim mentality in your argument."
Let's talk about the obesity pay gap, as they refer to it in research, or the fat pay gap.
Okay, so you are going to have a victim mentality then, like this person said in their comment?
It's related because of this person's comments, I promise. But we all know people who lose weight are always the most anti-fat people ever, right?
What does anti-fat mean? You literally think people are going around that just dislike fat people and they're out to get them? Even though that person was previously overweight. Wow, bro.
But this was the rest of her comments, that basically straight-sized women travel to New York City all the time. They go to Kleinfeld's. This is not specific to fat women. I'm just victimizing myself and saying that fat people aren't allowed to fall in love, yada yada, stay victimized.
Yeah, she basically broke down all of your arguments into one convenient little comment there.
We're gonna get into the wage gap thing, but straight-sized women have local...
Why are we going to get into the wage gap thing? That had literally nothing to do with this person's comment.
options available to them. I could Google wedding shops in my area, right? And all of those wedding shops will carry sizes 0 at least up to like a 12, 14, maybe 16, maybe 18, right?
I'll have to take your word for it.
So if I was straight-sized, I would have a ton of local available options to me, right?
Yes, being down at what is considered a normal and healthy BMI will come with more than just the health benefits. It'll also come with this benefit of having more selection when it comes to garments. You're right, we should all lose weight. Oh wait, was that your point? Wait, was that your point?
If I wanted, I could travel to a different place to have a different selection, to have a more expensive selection, to go to somewhere like Kleinfeld's. I don't have to do that. It is not a forced option to do that. With plus sizes, like I explained, the only option in my area that currently sells plus sizes is David's Bridal, which I went to in 2013, and
Okay, so they called you out for playing the victim, and your response is to play the victim more and talk about how you can't buy anything and there's no access to anything for you.
had a terrible experience. The other two options went out of business in my area. So I don't have the option to do that. I don't have a bunch of available options.
Do we have the options to change ourselves at all, or?
I would have to travel to Georgia, Minnesota, somewhere that does have a plus size selection.
You would have to drive to a whole different state. This is the same person, by the way, that's always dramatizing all the stuff they have to go through because of their size. I have to plan ahead for a funeral. If somebody around me is sick, I go funeral clothes shopping immediately. That's this person.
In order to do that. That is the difference. But now we're talking about cost and how that plays into that. So if I have to travel on top of that as a plus size person, let's talk about how fat people earn an average of 12% less than their non-obese counterparts.
If you're not a go-getter who goes and gets and pursues advancement at your job, you're going to be less likely to get advancement. Obese people aren't getting paid 12% less because they're being discriminated against. They are far less likely to pursue advancement. Also, being weighed down by all this excess adipose tissue prevents you from working as hard or as fast as somebody who is not weighed down by that. If I do 50 to 60% more work than you, and you only make 12% less than me, I'd call that a win for you.
So, if I am forced to travel to find a wedding dress because there are no available shops in my area that carry plus-size wedding dresses, how am I supposed to do that when I earn 12% less because I am a fat person?
If we earn less, then how come we are bigger than somebody that earns more? That doesn't make any sense.
And this is based on studies. This is not based on feelings. This is not based on victimization and like made up things like
It's based on completely irrelevant information.
you all think. This is based on research. We are less likely to be hired and less likely to be promoted. There's also this article that I found. For white men, they actually earn more, but the wage penalty for women that were overweight, it was consistent across all studies. So not only do we know that like women already earn less than men, that's a thing, but if you're a fat woman, you're earning less on top of that. So like there's a crazy disparity amongst fat women. And it continues to get worse as fat women age. You can even be fired for being a woman who is fat
No, you can't.
in every state.
You wouldn't hire them to begin with, right? You like hire this person, then one day you're just like, you know what? You're too fat. You're out of here. Why did you hire me then? What the hell? This is that brain dead argument that because there isn't specifically a protected category of obese people, they can be fired just for being obese. This is like if I said, there's not specific protections against people being fired for having a mustache, therefore you can fire people just for having a mustache? That's completely ridiculous. They should not be allowed to do that. That's literally what you're trying to do. Nobody is firing somebody for being obese. People might get fired, though, for not being a good employee or working hard. Can you go dig me a ditch right now? Can you climb up a ladder? If you can't do basic physical activities, then how can you do as much work as somebody that can?
Except for New York City, which recently passed a bill to make that discrimination, but literally...
Right, which is an absolutely stupid and pointless law. Unless somebody says, I am firing you because you are obese. Good luck proving anything.
everywhere else, that is a possibility. So please tell me how this is victimization.
Because you just literally started playing the victim when they called you out for it. They're like, I used to be larger myself, but you have a real victim mindset. Your response is to talk about how you don't have access to clothes and you get paid less and all this other stuff, painting yourself as a victim.
When it is very, very real.
I don't think any of that stuff is real. It seems to me that you stopped caring about reality a long time ago, my friend. Next, she's going to be responding to this comment that reads, please don't use them. I get why it's the easy option, but Shein used child labor, don't pay properly, and have inadequate safety measures.
I already replied to this comment, but I just wanted to expand upon it. If you say stuff like this, but you cannot offer an equally affordable alternative that is just as size inclusive, because again, like Shein expanded their size range, I think like 2 years ago. So they do go up to like a 32 or 34 or something like that. Then you cannot say stuff like this.
Okay, so it's fine to use garments that were produced by child slave labor, because we got nowhere else to get clothes, you idiots. What do you want us to do? Okay. And she said, if you can't provide us with an alternative that is affordable. Okay, so you're not willing to pay a little bit more to have garments that are made by not slaves? Okay, well, sorry kids, I had to save a couple bucks. As you know, obese people get paid less, so sorry young man, go back to the sewing machine.
Because again, we only have a handful of options.
I know, there's nothing that we could possibly do to make ourselves fit into other garments or anything.
Especially a handful of options that go up past a 24, 26.
It's always we this, we that, I this, me that. Like, you're literally self-obsessed and you don't care about what anybody else wants or needs on this entire planet, including children. So that's not shocking, honestly.
So for you to come into the comment section and try to tell people like, oh no, this is bad, don't do this, don't do this. Unless you're going to offer a different option that will be equally affordable for people.
That will be equally affordable. So yeah, I had to go with the child slave labor option because it was a little cheaper. There are other options, but this one was cheaper. Obviously, goods produced with slave labor are going to be cheaper than anything else, dude.
People and equally size inclusive. Just saying this, hey, don't do that, is not helpful to anyone. Because all you're doing is going, hey, you know those 5 options that you guys get? Don't do one of those.
Okay, so we have 4 other non-child slave labor options. Why do we have to get things that look fashionable or whatever, no matter the cost? Like, even if it's being made by kids, what?
So let me make your options even less for you.
Right, but they said it was made by kids, bro. Right? Like, I know it sucks that we can't find garments, but, you know, maybe the whole, this thing is being made by kids is like a little more important, you know, than like looking good or whatever. Maybe?
We know that our options are terrible. We want more options, which is part of why we talk about like how there needs to be more inclusivity so that we do have the option to be like, hey, I don't want to buy from this brand because I don't like their business practices. But until we have more options, we don't really have the ability to do that. Straight size people do because they get 8 million options. So of course they have the moral high ground to be like, yeah, I don't want to purchase from this brand because I don't like what they do.
Well, maybe some people will just not buy products made by child slave labor, even if it's cheaper, or that's the only option.
But until we have more than 5 options,
We'll have to use child slave labor.
we don't really get a choice.
That was a very bizarre response to that comment. And I have another video of them responding to another comment that's fairly similar. This person says, again, online thrifting, in response to that last video we just saw.
So your answer to the fact that every single plus size company basically uses slave labor and child labor.
Their answer is to go online thrifting. I didn't know there were thrift stores online. That sounds pretty dope, honestly.
Is that our only option should be online thrifting. We can't buy from any actual brand. We should only online thrift. Here's the problem with that argument. I have tried online thrifting. I have.
I don't believe you.
Plus size people wear our clothes until they literally fall apart.
Okay.
We don't just like get rid of them to get rid of them.
Well, plus, you know, who in their right mind would get rid of this dope-ass Ursula shirt? Am I right? Like, that baby is a keeper, and it's gonna stay in my wardrobe for the rest of time.
So that's why it's hard to find plus size items in thrifting, even online thrifting. So like I've been to online thrift shops that carry plus size items. I have very rarely seen items in sizes 24 and above. I'm a size 26 on the bottom. And also very rarely have I seen things, if they do come in that size, which is already very rare, it is even rarer that I see something that I'm like, oh, that's really cute, I would buy that. I would actually wear that.
All right, so the problem with online thrift stores is that the clothes aren't cute enough. So we had to use child slave labor. They got way better clothes over there.
So you're literally telling me that that's our only option. That's what we should stick with.
I don't care what option you choose. Don't choose the child slave labor option. That's what I'm saying personally. You didn't even say it was the only option. You said it was cheaper. Pay more. Can we as society agree that we're willing to pay a little bit more if our products were not made by slaves? I'm willing to pay a little bit more for that perk.
That's the solution. You can't tell me that you have never bought anything in a store ever. Like, you just can't tell me that.
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
You have a phone. I'm sure you probably have a computer. You probably have a house. Like, you can't tell me that you have only ever filled your house and your closet with thrifted items. Like,
They don't need to, as long as the clothes they're buying were not made by slave labor. They're not saying that you must wear used clothes. They're just saying, don't buy them from this other place because it's bad. And you just want to argue it's cheaper, they got more selection.
that's just the moral superiority that you are projecting in the comments about how, like, thrifting is the only way to live.
They never said that. They didn't say thrifting is the only way to live. We saw what they said. You know that, right? Like, so...
Is just... I can't. I will say it a million times over. Until plus-size people have more access to things, until we have more options, we have to work within the system we are given. You are welcome to leave my page. I might block you because the argument is just completely asinine to me.
You said that Shein was one of the 5 options that you have. And basically you said you could get clothes other places, but they're more expensive. So we're willing to have our garments made by child slave labor to save a couple bucks. And when somebody calls us out for it, we try to redirect and twist their comment to mean, thrifting is the only way that you should shop. That's not what they said at all. So obviously I disagree with all of the aforementioned. I don't give a damn how much more it costs to not have your garments made by child slave labor. Pay more. I don't care. Pay more. So obviously I disagree with all of the aforementioned, but what do you think? Are fat people hotter than thin folks? Is there such a thing as the obesity pay gap? And is it fine if our clothes come from child slave labor as long as they fit and they're a little bit cheaper? Leave a comment below. Happy Monday, everybody. Anyway, that about does it. Thanks for watching, commenting, liking, and subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one.